Hello, everyone. Welcome to UGA Sports Rumors versus Facts, the show that brings you Georgia football recruiting each and every Monday night. And we got to get right to it, guys, because there's a Game 7, and both of our guests that are going to be tonight, they want to see this Game 7 coming on. So we told them we'd get right to it. We got Peyton Woodyard and Dylan Raiola joining us. Guys, thank you so much. We don't want to cut into the Heat and Celtics too much for you now. So we're going to keep it brief on here. How you guys doing?
Oh, we're doing good.
Yeah, I'm doing great.
Absolutely. So we got to start off right off the bat. We already talked a little bit about Peyton before. Who you got in Game 7, Dylan? Who are you going with?
That's a hard one. I'm gonna have to go with Miami though.
Okay.
I think they'll come through.
I was telling Peyton that Jimmy Butler apparently is a big Georgia Bulldog fan. So
Really?
there you go. That adds another element to it for you. So and
Peyton,
who'd you say you were going with again?
Yeah, so I was going with Jimmy B, man, the Heat, man.
There we go.
There we go. So, guys, we appreciate you hopping on. Dylan, we hadn't got to talk to you really much. I mean, I saw you at the throw-in event and things like that, but there was so much going on in that. Just kind of tell us what these last couple of weeks, I think you've kind of had a feeling this was going to be the place for you since maybe March sometime, but really officially kind of going through your process and making it official to the Dogs. Tell us what these last few weeks have been like for you.
Yeah, it's been a blessing, just to be a part of what Coach Smart has built. Him and his staff have worked so hard to establish a program like they have, and I'm just very fortunate to be a part of it. I give all the credit to the coaching staff and just what they do and how much they love doing what they do. So it's a fun deal. And just to have people like Peyton and all those kind of guys in this class is pretty cool. They're all great dudes. So it's been exciting.
Peyton, I mean, it seemed like a long time coming. I know you were working on your guy Dylan here for a while. So what was your reaction when that tweet finally went down or that Instagram post went down that day and everybody saw that Dylan was going to be a Dog?
Oh man, it felt good just being able to get my boy on the team with me,
Yeah.
Not only play football with him, but go to school with him, and just also it's just great to have him with the whole class. The class we have is legendary, and it'll be one to remember for sure. Like once you look back at it.
No doubt. Trent, what you got for these guys?
Yeah, speaking of legendary, y'all got y'all's official visits coming up. Y'all seen campus over and over and over, and y'all committed to that coaching staff, so you're very comfortable with them. What's the plan on this official visit? Who y'all recruiting? Who y'all trying to get to join y'all up in Athens?
Pay, you got it. Go ahead.
One person I always talk about is talking to my boy KJ. You know what I'm saying? I definitely want to try and get him. But I don't think he's gonna be there that day. But
next week.
Yeah. I mean, we're always working on dudes like that, but we already seen campus and stuff. I think it's just more looking forward to fellowshipping and building that bond with our class. We already have a good bond, and that's just over social media. I mean, we met some of them in person, but this will be a real good chance for us to fellowship and build that bond.
Dylan, there's so many guys going to be there this week. So much talent. I mean, I think it's 16 guys that we've got put out there. I'll put the graphic up again. I mean, just look at some of these faces here. You've got such talented guys coming in. What is it going to be like as someone who now you're already on board, you and Peyton both, and you can kind of be ambassadors for this class. So what are you just going to I know it's going to be about having fun, but what are you going to be kind of sharing with these guys since you're already on board?
Yeah, I mean, I think what Coach Smart has built speaks for itself, and all we have to do is piggyback off what they do. The coaches have our backs, we have their backs, so really just getting to know these guys on a personal level. Kind of take football out of the equation and get to know them as men, and just how their family's doing, how's football going. And, it's just to get to know these guys on a personal level, because I think that goes a much further way than just trying to get them to come to play at Georgia with you. You build a bond with them. It means a little more to them.
Yeah.
Trent?
Yeah, Peyton, you talking about KJ, wanting KJ to join up with you. What would that safety tandem look like in Athens compared to other safety tandems? I mean that would be that'd be one nasty duo.
Yeah, that'd be one crazy duo for sure. Like, you know what I'm saying? I feel like we if we get all the best safeties in the room, you know what I'm saying, it's only gonna push us to be better and be the best athlete we can be, you know. So I feel like competition breeds the best out of everyone. So it would be good to get him on the squad, and shoot, all of us on the field at one time would be crazy. So
So who would be the center field guy, and who would be the one playing in the box if you drop down safety?
I think we both will be able to do it. Do either.
What he's asking you, Peyton, is who wants the smoke in there tackling in the box? Who wants to go in there and lower their head?
I answer for them. I think they both want the smoke. They're
we both want the smoke.
Yeah.
We should go to a zero package.
I think it would be pretty scary for Dylan at a on the other side of the ball, like in practice, seeing me and
Safety
KJ
blitz.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Dylan, when it comes down to it, you and to Trent's point about safeties, he's being coached by Kirby Smart, Will Muschamp, who both played safety at Georgia. Mm-hmm. You're being coached by Mike Bobo, who played quarterback at Georgia. I want to know who's going to get the most trash talk from their coach. Do you think it's going to be Peyton with Kirby and them telling them how they were good safeties, or Bobo saying, hey, here's how I used to spin it back in the day over there? Who's going to get the most trash talk from their coach?
Man, I really don't think they do a lot of trash talking. I think they let the play speak for itself. They're all great coaches, great men, great dads, great fathers. So, I mean, you learn more than football with these guys. As much as it's about football, it's more about family and fellowship with like I got to know Coach Smart's son for a little bit, and he's awesome. I remember being that age, and what he wants to do is great. So just being able to support families like that, it's pretty special.
I think Muschamp talk a little bit of smack though. If I'm here,
I haven't heard if he does.
Yeah, Coach Muschamp, he'd be like, man, you should have seen me back in the day. I might have been able to hang with y'all.
That's what I'm saying. There's got to be a little bit of that competitive vibe still in him, from those days. But
yeah,
Peyton, you're in a little bit different position. Dylan's kind of shut everything down. You're still going to take some visits, Peyton, but it almost feels like the Georgia staff, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Georgia staff kind of says, hey, go enjoy your process, stuff like that, because they're pretty confident in their relationship with you and stuff like that. Is that kind of the approach that they take with that kind of stuff?
Yes, sir. Most definitely. Coach Fran and Coach Muschamp and Coach Kirby, I talked to them all, and they agree, man. Take your officials, and like you enjoy it. You only get to experience you only get to experience this once, so I'm definitely just enjoying it, and I'm 100% committed to Georgia, and I can't wait to be a Bulldog.
Absolutely. So Peyton, when it comes down to going around campus and Athens and all that kind of stuff, well, both of you guys, really, you can answer it. Have you found any spot yet that you like, place to eat, something like that okay, for the next 3 or 4 years, this is going to be one of my mainstays here? What do you like around campus?
Go ahead, Dylan. You like it?
I really. That's hard. There's a few spots that I know, but I don't know the name of them. I think the Chuck spot right by the hotel.
Oh yeah.
There's another breakfast spot. I can't remember the name of it, but it was really good.
Yeah, I remember we had what's that one place they got out there that we don't have over here? It's called a Takeout or something. Is it? Is that what it's called? Takeout.
Takeout. I never heard of that.
I don't know. It's like
Cookout.
That's what it's called. Cookout.
Like a fast food joint?
Yeah, it's a little fast food joint. That place is cool. And then they had like this pizza place that some of the football players got. It was pretty good. It was like on campus, I think.
I'm going to have to go check those out. I've never been.
Mahar says Cookout, so he gives a shout out to that. Paul works with us over there. Trent, what you got for these fellas?
Yeah, I mean, both of y'all are firmly committed, and we talked about this earlier. You talked about KJ. What is with the guys that are coming on campus? What are you kind of looking at? I know you're after Jeremiah, Dylan. I know you're after a couple other guys, Wingo maybe, and a couple other guys. Any particular receivers that you've kind of hit it off with? I know that you had the throwing session. Any receivers you've hit it off with?
Yeah, the committed guys, of course, Nye and Jacoby, those guys are great. And then I got to meet Ryan Williams, and then Colton Heinrich was there. He committed recently last week, and then having Jeremiah there was pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, they're all really great players. They wouldn't be in the conversation if they weren't. But like I said earlier, it was really just building the relationships with these guys, and just knowing that you just support them wherever they go. We obviously want them to be a Bulldog, but I think it's just more than football at this point. It's getting to know everything about them and just connect with them and relate to them in so many different ways.
We had Jacoby on last week, and he talked about how shy and Jeremiah didn't talk much.
Yeah, no, he's pretty quiet, but his family's great. His younger brother was awesome, so it was a pleasure hanging out with all those guys.
Alex Page says to both of y'all, alumni cookie dough. That's a spot y'all got to hit up on the OV. So write that one down. Alumni cookie dough. You got to have that on there.
Remember that.
Peyton, the real question is, man, of course we had you on here to talk Georgia and recruit and all that, but I really need a good shave. Anybody that can hook me up with some razors or anything, man? I mean, how about that?
Oh yeah, hit up Bevel. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Congrats on the NIL. I wanted to ask you guys both about that, because two of the more heavily recruited prospects in the country, you guys have had to deal with that aspect of it when other generations of prospects haven't, in terms of looking what do I look like in terms of my marketability going forward and all that kind of stuff. I know that it may not be the main focus, football and getting better, the main focus, but how do you guys kind of balance that, knowing it's coming down the line and something that you'll have to deal with, and how do you make sure you go about it the right way?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, always keep the main thing. Like you said, Mr. Blayne, keep football the main thing, and that just understand that everything else will fall in line. I have great parents. I have a great supporting staff that I trust a lot to handle those kind of things. And I'm very fortunate to, let them handle that, and I can really just work on football. So I'm fortunate in that aspect of it. But I think it's a unique time for college football with this NIL thing. Paid situation is different because high schools are allowed in California. In Arizona they're not. So it's just a different scenario. But I think you keep football the main thing, and everything else will fall in line. And keep torching Peyton and KJ in practice.
Oh, hell no. Yeah.
So Peyton, what's the NIL thing been like? It is different now, California. I mean, how is that? It's just a crazy time for you guys as high school to not only deal with all the recruiting stuff, but also this NIL stuff that comes along with it.
I think it's kind of like what Dylan said. I don't think you could said it any better. Just like keep the main thing the main thing, and football is what got you there. So you got to keep it the main thing and keep your faith first, your family, and then football. I mean, NIL is kind of crazy though. I can't lie. You definitely don't want to invest in everything. You don't want to. He keeps stroking his beard and stuff.
Did you not want to shave off the little the patch there and the mustache when they came at you? Were you like, hey, what am I gonna do? I gotta get rid of this?
No, I gotta keep the beard. I gotta keep the little stubble right here.
Yeah, no doubt, man. No, it made me think about it when I saw the Instagram. Last question for both of you, because I know y'all got to go get to Game 7, and this is the end of our 15 minutes here. Recruits that we've talked to, both of them have talked to us about you guys, saying you're just so relational. Like, it doesn't matter if it's somebody that's ultimately going to Georgia or not. You just enjoy creating relationships with guys and getting to know them. And people even talk about, hey, these two guys are mature. They're really like, they're out there having real conversations with you. what is that about you two guys that you make it a point to do that with people, and why do you enjoy that relationship aspect so much?
You got it. Go first.
I don't think it's like anything you try to do. I think like both me and Dylan were raised my parents correctly, and I just think like it's just you got to be you. You know what I'm saying? Be very personable and just talk to people, man. Like
yeah, like
yeah.
Peyton hits it right. You know,
Yeah.
both raised right. You know, I can't take any of the credit. I give it all to my parents, but yeah, you got to just be you. You know, you try to be somebody you're not. Most of the time, people will know you're fake, and I think in that aspect, you just gotta be you. And if they don't click with you, then it doesn't click. You know, it's not meant to be. But you know, if it was meant to be, it'll be. So that's just kind of the approach that overall really we take.
Absolutely. Well, guys, we appreciate you coming on. As promised, to hit around that 15-minute mark, we're gonna let you go watch Game 7. So y'all enjoy it. I hope your Heat win for both of you, because that's who you predicted. So we appreciate you guys coming on.
Yes, sir. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
Absolutely. We'll see you guys later. Thanks, Peyton. Thanks, Dylan. Trent, you know, hey, big two guests right there, two of the leaders of this class now, with Dylan Raiola having come on the offensive side. And, you know, of course, Peyton has been a part of things over there on the defensive side. What were your takeaways from that interview with those two guys?
Yeah, I mean, you could be looking at in 2 or 3 years as that being the offensive captain and the defensive captain of the defense and offense at the University of Georgia. I mean, both of them are mature beyond their ages. Both of them are quality kids, and they seem like they got that leadership traits to lead a defense, lead an offense. So you might be looking at right now they're just high schoolers, just seniors in high schools, and 17, 18-year-old kids. But that's the future in Athens right there.
Absolutely. So they talked about, hey, you know, really it's just about building upon what Coach Smart and everybody has kind of already built on there, and they're just basically pointing at the results. Is that the level that Georgia has reached now with 2 back-to-back national champions? They just say, just look at the product that's on the field. It's more of an invitation to come to Georgia than it is to be recruited.
For sure. I mean, I think that what Kirby's done over the past 2 years with his players and his just marketability of the program, I think that is turned in. It is what it is. I mean, it's a premier program in college football. You come here and you get what you get. Keep the main thing. That's what the thing. I think it's funny how we talk about as a staff. You go interview these players after practices and stuff, the team wise, and it feels like you're talking to Coach Smart every single time. And now you're talking to recruits, and it feels like you're talking to Coach Smart because they already got that language. They already got that that kind of matureness about them, and talking the way you would think you were talking to Coach Smart. So it's very interesting, and those are two bright young men.
No doubt. And hey, a parent, you and I are both parents. Those parents have to be like, if they're watching right now, or they see the replay of that, they got to be like over them. Anybody gives that much props to mom and dad, mom and dad are doing stuff right, and these two kids that love their parents. So hey, that's always got to make the mom and dad.
I can't see myself standing in front of a camera at 17, 18 years old and being that mature. I mean, we talked to Casey Poe a few weeks ago, and his maturity and his confidence in just talking and being outspoken. And there is that thing, but Kirby Smart is not only recruiting a certain type of talent, but he's recruiting a certain type of kid, and you're kind of seeing that with the interviews that we're having with these commits.
Absolutely. So Andy Stowe says, yeah, you see them all rock the Kirby cliches. So awesome. So for sure, they're out there speaking Kirby-ese, as I like to say over there. I mean, they're definitely talking the Georgia line. I do want to put up the picture, the title screen once again, because just look at all these names over here. I mean, 16 guys, and yeah, put Kirby in there with a smile on his face, because he's got to be excited to have that much talent. But you got guys coming in like Justin Scott, for example, Trent, who has never set foot in Athens and is coming for an official visit, a 5-star defensive tackle, number 1 defensive tackle in the country, says, you know what? I've never been there before. They didn't offer me till January. Let's go take an OV. I mean, that I think goes to your point earlier about them being a premier program, Georgia. And I think Justin Scott is actually a guy Georgia has a lot of momentum with coming into this visit.
Yeah, what's funny about that is they offer in January. He was set to commit. He was, by all accounts, committing to Notre Dame, and then the offer came from Georgia, and that just shows what kind of program and influence Georgia program has on these kids. He postponed his announcement. Then he has not announced anything since, and will take his first visit to Georgia, and that definitely shows what kind of program Kirby's running. I mean, this is a kid up north, a bunch of miles away, and Kirby and his staff's able to get him to postpone his announcement and just say, hey, just check us out. That's all we want you to do is check us out. And that's what he's going to be doing. And that visit will happen this weekend.
Yeah. I mean, anytime that you are that prominently involved or listed in somebody's recruitment and they've never even been on campus before, that just says that there's a whole lot of potential there when it comes to with Justin Scott. And that's a position where Georgia doesn't necessarily at defensive tackle, interior defensive line, doesn't necessarily need numbers, but they do need to hit on a couple of quality guys in this cycle, Trent.
Yeah, they definitely have numbers at the position, but I think Georgia's looking for, that next Jalen Carter. And I think over the past couple of years, Georgia's done a great job in the development standpoint. Guys like Trent and guys like that they've been able to develop into quality SEC players, and it doesn't say they're going to be future first-round picks, but they're quality SEC defensive linemen. I think they're looking for that next stud, and I think that's the guy that they need to hit on.
Absolutely. Another defensive lineman that is going to be coming in, and it's specifically at the 5 technique, is Justin Green. And he's a guy that is in Georgia's backyard, Mountain View High School there in Lawrenceville. And he's a guy that really has some versatility. I believe Rivals has him listed at like 260. I think that needs to be updated. I think he's a little bit heavier than that now, Trent. And he's a guy that he could be kind of, in my eyes, kind of that almost Malik Herring type role. He's a guy who could play heavy and slide down in certain personnels, or he could be that quicker guy out on the edge as well. So he's got a lot of versatility, and I think Georgia has a lot of momentum with him coming into this visit.
Yeah, I went and talked with him a couple weeks ago at Mountain View High School, and he's a kid that his coaching staff raved about. In the world we're living in today of social media and me, and he is a guy who goes home and puts his phone up. I'm telling you, he's hard to get in touch with. I sent him that official visit edit that Blayne made about 2 weeks ago, and he released it, I think, 2 days ago. And he never responded back that he even received it. So he's a hard guy to get in touch with because he's got his head on straight. I mean, he goes home and he does his homework. I think he said a 4.2 or something like that in GPA. He's a very smart kid. He's a son of a military dad, and he's lived in Texas, and he's lived in, I think, Kansas, and he's lived in about 4 states, but he's lived here since he's been in 6th grade. So he considers Georgia home. And the one thing that he constantly said was he did not want to go far away from home. He considers Georgia home, and that bodes well for Georgia only being about an hour up the road.
No doubt. People asking right here, Greg Goose on YouTube says, can we get Dylan to go ahead and recruit Juju Lewis to be his predecessor for 2026? Listen, I wouldn't be shocked if there's communications going on. All these high-profile quarterbacks, they talk, and obviously – you have to see what happens, right? Because that's always been the narrative with the 5-star quarterbacks and Kirby Smart and all this kind of stuff. But people forget that Jake Fromm was a 5-star himself, was committed to Alabama, flipped to Georgia, ended up having a really great career. He just happened to fend off another couple of 5-stars that certain people may have wanted to play over him, all that kind of stuff. But he was a 5-star guy. And then there was a unprecedented story that we've never seen and probably never will see again, like Stetson Bennett. So we'll see what happens when it comes to Dylan Raiola, but you've still got 2 guys on the roster now that are, former 5-stars, at least at one point in their recruitment, Gunnar Stockton, Brock Vandegrift. And then, people forget, Trent, that Carson Beck was no shabby recruit himself.
No, Carson Beck is a guy who had a brilliant junior season. In the senior season, he lost all his weapons on offense after a brilliant junior season, and he struggled a little bit. And coming in, I think that was kind of his motto, that he struggled his senior year. He wasn't wanted by a lot of colleges, but due to that, and the one thing he's done over the past 2 or 3 years is just mature. He's matured on the field. Sitting behind Stetson might not seem like a lot to a lot of people, but it is. I mean, the way Stetson carried himself in the huddle, the way Stetson was it's my time. I mean, we're going to get it done. And I think that's one area that Carson lacked when it came to, hey, when the game's on the line, look, we got to go. And I think learning from Stetson has really matured him as a player and a young man.
No doubt. People forget that Stetson Bennett absolutely blew away the Rams in terms of his knowledge of the game and of protections and all that kind of stuff. And that's one reason they ended up drafting him. So we say all that to say this. I don't think that the Dylan Raiola recruitment and commitment did anything but help Georgia when it comes to Julian Lewis, especially because there's a year of separation there between the classes. And Julian is a guy that is just a unbelievable talent. He's been recruited by Georgia since 7th grade. He's been coming to Athens, and Georgia, Alabama, LSU, Ohio State, USC, those 5 programs are kind of separating themselves a little bit for Julian as it stands right now to kind of go throughout things. So we'll see how that continues to progress. So we got a lot of questions here, and we'll get to more of these official visitors, but you just see the names that are scrolling through, Trent, down there at the bottom. You see guys like Daniel Calhoun on the offensive line, who I know that Ryan Puglisi and Dylan Raiola both want as part of this class as a future guy that could either play tackle or guard to be there protecting them. You see the fellow commit Nye Carr, who's going to help. DeMello Jones is going to help recruit. And then they're big prospects, as we mentioned, on the defensive front, like Dylan Stewart, Justin Green, Justin Scott, who we've already talked about, Peyton Woodyard, of course, who joined us, and Williams Nwaneri. And we'll get to those edge guys in a minute. But I know that the first week of last year with Arch Manning and all those guys that came in was pretty loaded. This one, I think, rivals that and may even surpass it in terms of top to bottom. Even a guy like Carter Nelson, who is another tight end that Georgia's already killing it at tight end. Surprise, surprise, with Todd Hartley recruiting. This one, top to bottom, in terms of the guys that are going to be there on officials this weekend, is as loaded as any I can remember.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a little different than last year as well, because you have your quarterback committed, who's kind of your captain recruiter of the offense. And then we just talked to Peyton Woodyard, who is kind of that recruiter on the defensive side of the ball. So you kind of got your quote unquote commit staff on board with you on this visit with him. And Ellis Robinson as well. And you got these guys on campus. So you got a good mixture of commits, leaders of this class, and you got a mixture of targets in this class. And I think the combination will do well with these guys on campus. I think they'll have a lot better, when we look back at this time next year and look back at the January 2nd, like we do with Arch Manning weekend, I think it'll be a lot more successful. No doubt.
Let's get into some of these questions here. Big Fatty 94 said, who would you give the edge to today with UGA in terms of landing Wingo Smith? So you're talking about Ryan Wingo, JJ Smith, or Jeremiah Smith, however you want to refer to him, and Mike Matthews. So let's answer that one first. And he's got a second part of the question. Wide receiver recruiting, already have Nitro Tuggle, already have Sokovie White, already have Nye Carr committed in the class. I'm even going to venture to go out and say, really, you've kind of got to add Dwight Phillips into that as well, because he's going to be used as a hybrid wide receiver, running back type guy. I don't think he's going to be just an every down type running back. So he's going to be a threat. And then, of course, you have the 2 tight ends. But in terms of maybe 1-2 more wide receivers that could potentially be in this class, how would you assess those 3 right now, Trent?
That's tough. Those 3 are tough to cipher through because Matthews is a guy who Georgia's been recruiting for a long time, has kind of found ways or reasons not to visit Georgia. So you kind of get that vibe that Georgia's on the outside looking in, but then he is close with Dylan, or that relationship starting to grow. So I think that's put Georgia in a better standing with him. I don't know if it puts Georgia at the top just necessarily. I think coming off the visit with Jeremiah Smith this past weekend, or for the when he threw with him a couple weeks ago, I think Georgia is probably in the best position with Jeremiah Smith. I would say Smith, Matthews, Wingo. Wingo hasn't visited, and that is coming this weekend, but I would put it in that order right now.
No doubt. I think that when it comes to JJ Smith, we're looking at a long game type deal here. Think back to Travis Hunter. Not saying that it'll end up the same way as Travis Hunter, but think back to that. We said for months, Trent, leading up to that, if anything happens, it's going to be right there at the end. And I think that's going to be similar to the case with JJ Smith. I will point out he was wearing all Georgia gear at his 7-on-7 this weekend. Does that mean anything? Absolutely no. But could it mean something? Maybe. Or it could mean that he just got some Nike gear on his OV that he wanted to wear. You never know. But from people that I've talked to, when it comes to JJ Smith, there was a sense of, okay, this feels, hey, I'm from the South, I'm from Florida. This feels a little bit more comfortable maybe than Columbus, Ohio. So that is something that I think is working in Georgia's favor. We'll see there. And then with Mike Matthews, you're going to get him on campus. People have been saying for a while, that, hey, they don't see it and stuff like that. I've even been on this show saying I think it's a long shot and stuff like that. But Trent, you get these guys on campus like they did with Jeremiah Smith. You got to chances to get something done.
Yeah, and I mean this is a kid who's close to Georgia from a travel standpoint. I mean he's what, hour and 20 minutes down the road, down 316. He's and I think the vibe has been created around him just taking other visits when Georgia was having big recruiting things and kind of stuff what we hear. But like I said, again, I do think Georgia has gained ground with having Dylan Raiola. I think that the two have talked, and the two have grown a relationship, and that can only help Georgia moving forward along with the visit to Athens.
The second part of Big Fatty 94's question was, with Raiola on board, who is one recruit that we don't think of that is really looking at Georgia now? So it's hard to maybe assess, okay, guys that this really moved the needle for so much that, hey, he he's going to now start looking at it when he wasn't at all before. I think Brandon Baker at offensive tackle is a name that you have to mention out there because Raiola definitely has a relationship with him, and he's going to be making an official visit. So I think the fact that he kind of knew this was coming, knew the commit was coming, knew where Dylan was leaning, helped get him to the point for an OV, and now it'll be on Stacey Searles and Kirby Smart and the Georgia staff to kind of close the deal there. But that's a big offensive tackle target that I know many people on the vault would welcome with open arms, Trent, if he decided to make it official and become a Georgia Bulldog.
Yeah, that's a good offensive lineman. Looking at his film, that is an elite guy that Georgia, we've talked about that position in particular that Georgia really needs to hit on in this class, and that would be your elite guy coming in. I've seen a lot of guys that he's not necessarily that Georgia, but when he committed to Georgia, guys like Draylon Miller and those guys just spoke out about his commitment, and not necessarily saying that Georgia is in it but just the impact of his commitment to Georgia. Just guys all across the country took notice of it, and I saw Draylon was one of those guys.
Well, Jeremiah Smith falls in that category. You know, his first response was that I got to take a serious look at Georgia now because of knowing that he would have a chance to catch the ball from Dylan Raiola, you know, during their career at some point. So he kind of fits in that category. Darth Janus here. Which weekend in June do you think will have the biggest impact in terms of players who will sign for Georgia in the class? So we see the players scrolling around here, but Trent, I'm going to go ahead and say actually the next weekend, June 9th through 11th, could end up having the bigger impact when it comes to people who sign with Georgia.
Yeah, that's the KJ Bolden, Edric Houston's visiting that weekend, isn't he?
Yeah, Sammy Brown is coming that weekend. You've got to commit Malachi Tolliver, so of course he's already a part of the class that's going to be there as well. Let's see, we've got all this on our mega thread. Jordan Ross, who's a guy we've talked about, all these edge guys. Jordan Ross is a guy I think Georgia's got a lot of momentum with going into his visit. Of course, Mike Matthews that we've already talked about.
I'm looking at a guy like Aiden Breland as a guy that Georgia has a legit chance with.
And Chauncey Bowens, the Florida running back commit, is going to be in town that weekend. I think that is one that the Raiola commitment could help out with as well, because what do running backs not want? They don't want a loaded box. And if you have a really good quarterback, you're not going to see a loaded box because people are going to keep people back to keep from getting torched deep in the secondary. That's a running back's best friend. You would have to think that Raiola would be in the ear of Chauncey Bowens trying to get him to flip from the Gators to the Bulldogs.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to, I guess, predict because, I mean, you got Dylan Stewart, Justin Scott, Daniel Calhoun, Justin Green, kind of guys that you feel comfortable with coming this weekend. And the next weekend, Sammy Brown, KJ Bolden, even Fletcher Westfall is a guy that Georgia has a legit chance with. Aiden Breland, like we talked about. So, yeah, I think both classes, I think these first two weekends are going to be the biggest impact weekends. Which one's bigger, I think, will depend on a few guys that we don't have predicted in the class right now, changing their mind and choosing Georgia. I think that will be the ultimate thing. I look at guys like Ron Wingo and those guys and who's going to be the kind of toss-up guys that swing that way. But both of these first two weekends are going to be huge.
Agreed.
Here comes this question again.
Yeah, a prediction of the number of public commitments in June. Where do you think Jeremiah Smith recruitment currently stands? I think Georgia got Jeremiah Smith's attention. I think that they gave him a lot to think about, and I think going forward, Georgia's solidly in the mix in this thing. I think they'll probably get a game visit from him this fall. So I think that's kind of where you're at right now with that. But in terms of the number of commits, they're at 15 now. Trent, Georgia is. You said before August they would be at 20. That would mean, just in the next 2 months they get 5 more. I think, I think you could see 4 or 5 in June. So this thing's clipping along harder, and faster than I thought it would.
Yeah, I think you covered the Jeremiah Smith. I think, a big thing with Jeremiah Smith is Brian Hartline. And this is why we talk about playing the long game. We got to see go in the fall. Brian Hartline could be up for a few jobs come, November, December. So you have to watch that one. So playing the long game on Jeremiah Smith is, some to do with Brian Hartline, some to do with how his relationship continues to grow with Georgia. And, yeah, I mean, I continue to say I think, for sure they'll be at 20 or over by August 1st. But, yeah, like Blayne said, I think you're looking at, 4 or 5 more coming, sooner than later. I think you got some guys that are on the edge of announcing right now and the official visits coming up to Georgia. And I think that's only going to push Georgia over the top.
I can't remember. Did Justin Green give you a timeline of when he's wanting to make a decision by?
He told me before his senior season starts so he said July, later part of July, first part of August is when he wants to announce that he's got 4 official visit trips in June. And then after June, he said that he will start narrowing it down with his family. But he did not want to commit or even silent commit. He said he was raised the way when he gave his word, he wanted to give his word, and that'll be coming July probably.
Yeah, I mean, well, we know Sammy Brown and KJ Bolden are wanting to make a decision by the early part of July. So is it possible that they bump it up to late June, maybe? Possibly, but you're probably looking 1st of July there. Daniel Calhoun, same type of time frame there that he's wanting to go with. Joseph Phillips, listen, the thing you got to look at with Joseph Phillips, and that's a name that people don't talk about enough at inside linebacker in this class, is he's a guy that the only official visit he has firmly scheduled right now is Georgia. And he's got a couple maybe games that he wants to go to in terms of an official visit weekend in Alabama and Tennessee in the fall. But right now, Joseph Phillips and Glenn Schumann, he does really well going to the state of Alabama and recruiting those guys all the way from his time back as a coach on the Alabama staff or a graduate assistant over there. So a lot of ties there. He's a guy that I think it wouldn't be unrealistic to see him end up making a decision sooner rather than later. So, I think it could be as many as 4 guys if certain decisions went Georgia's way. Let's see. We got Jagan17J. What's the biggest obstacle in Mike Matthews' recruitment? I don't know. I think some people like to say this is a totally NIL driven recruitment and stuff like that. And I don't, until I would be able to go sit down with a family and literally get the rundown of like financials and all that stuff, I don't feel comfortable saying something like that, Trent. But I do feel like he is a guy that is, I don't know if he's necessarily utilized as much as he should be at Parkview right now. So I don't know that the style of offense is necessarily going to be his hang up with anybody. And I think Georgia's is trending in the right direction. So I just think it's in terms of, hey, this young man just wanted to see how the process works out. And some guys ultimately, well, I'm not saying this is him or not, but some guys ultimately just don't want to go to school in their home state. They want to go somewhere else. So who knows if that's the holdup with Mike Matthews. What's your opinion on the biggest obstacle?
Yeah, I don't know what the biggest obstacle is, but you get the Gwinnett kids, and there's a big pull to schools like Clemson and Alabama and Gwinnett County, and some of these kids just like going further away from home. They like enjoying the process. They like going further away from home. We've seen this for I guess about 10, 12 years that I've been doing it. The kids have Georgia be hard after these Gwinnett County kids, and they just want to leave Gwinnett County, leave North Georgia, and get further away. And that's as far as obstacle or NIL or that stuff, I'm not sure that's completely true, because I mean, you can go market yourself anywhere you want to. I know there's some throwing out money at the beginning, but marketing yourself as a player on the field. You've seen Georgia is right up there marketing them with the best. But I think it's more of a he wants to enjoy the process. He wants to see all the schools, and that's exactly what he's doing. He just hadn't shown favoritism to Georgia because that's his in-state school.
No doubt. And then the other part of that question was, which 2024 RB is Georgia most likely to add to Phillips? Chauncey Bowens is going to be there for the official visit 9th through 11th. He is committed to Florida, but I think Georgia really has a lot of momentum in there. So, you're committed to, you're not, but we'll see what they do there. And then the other 2 names you got to look for, Nate Frazier and Christian Clark. I think Georgia's really fighting Texas for Christian Clark, and then Nate Frazier has a lot of schools that he still has yet to narrow it down from. But if that official visit gets scheduled, we'll definitely tell you about those. Double Dog Dare 1906. How solid are the safety commits? Well, you heard Peyton Woodyard on our show here at the beginning say that he is 100% committed to Georgia. He's just enjoying the process. He's talked to Kirby and Muschamp about it, so he's solid. Jalen Hayward, I think there was a push from Miami to try to flip him. I think Georgia kind of staved that off a little bit, Trent. So I would count him as solid as well. What's your opinion?
Yeah, I think if I had to predict one out of the two to flip, I think it would be Jalen Hayward at this time. I think Peyton Woodyard's pretty. As he said, he's solid. I think bringing Dylan Raiola and guys like that on has solidified this process more. I think they talk a good bit. He's also recruiting very hard for Georgia, trying to bring in players. You haven't heard that as much with Jalen Hayward. He might not be one of the outspoken ones. There's a few of those in this class, and that's completely fine. But if I had to predict one, it would be Hayward. But I think both of them are pretty solid right now. And if you can bring KJ Bolden in with that duo, it would be very, very good safety class.
And DeMello Jones is also a guy who could play safety. He's more of an athlete, corner, safety, star, wherever. He's going to be on the defensive side of the ball. He did visit Tennessee this weekend, but I still think, you're talking about a Swainsboro, Georgia guy, a guy that Kirby Smart's been all over. His family loves Georgia. I think he'll stick with Georgia as well. Jack Bowers, how confident are you that Sammy Brown will commit to Georgia? I'll say this. I thought about, a little over a month ago, I thought there was about a 10% chance, Trent, that I thought Clemson was a, prohibitive favorite and he just wasn't going to go to Georgia. But more and more, as we've talked to Sammy and been around this recruitment, Georgia has really, really gained a lot of momentum. And I would even call Georgia a slight leader in this now. So I don't know that I would say my confidence level is okay. Hey, he's going to end up, landing on Georgia in the first week of July, but I think Georgia having that second official visit the week after Clemson is actually in Georgia's favor.
Yeah, and I think the only thing his relationships are better at Georgia. I think he's got the best relationship with Glenn Schumann, is from a linebacker coach standpoint. I think that if his fastest way on the field might be at Clemson, just because of depth. Georgia's brought in a lot of depth, but I'm not sure that's playing a huge factor. I think it's more relationship based, and I think Georgia has better relationships right now from a coaching staff standpoint and from a commit standpoint. I think those started to build at that throwing session last weekend, having all those guys together and having Sammy kind of organize it and do that kind of stuff. So I think those relationships with the commits are starting to grow, and I think Georgia's chances have grown significantly over the last month.
Absolutely. So we got one from Pine Tree here. Do you believe Houston, he's talking about Edric Houston, would be a surprise if he ended up at Georgia? Some insiders seem to feel that way. I don't know that you would categorize it as a surprise because it's a elite defensive player that inside the state of Georgia that would be committing to Georgia. So I don't know that it would necessarily be a surprise, but I do think it would be a bucking of a trend, so to speak, when it comes to, elite Buford players, Gwinnett players for that matter, Trent, that end up committing to Georgia.
Yeah, I'm not going to say surprise because when I say that, he's legitimately the number one target that I think Georgia is going after. Dylan Raiola was kind of that guy on offense. I think Edric is that guy on defense. From a need standpoint and from a talent standpoint, this is another great kid. I mean, I've talked to him several times, just another mature beyond his years type kid. But surprised, it would not surprise me at all if he went to Georgia. I think it would be a huge day in the Georgia coaching office if he does go to Georgia. I don't think Georgia led as of a couple months ago, and throughout the couple months, I do think they've gained ground on Ohio State. A couple months ago, I thought he had his best relationships with Ohio State. That's all he talked about was how hard Ohio State's coming after him, how the relationship's really grown with Ohio State. And, there's several other schools in it, but I do think Georgia has made up ground there, and that's going to be a big official visit here in a couple weeks.
To tell you how big it would be, Trent, I believe if Edric Houston told Georgia he was going to commit to them, I think Kirby Smart would go ahead and in his celebration name the next UGA, what the next UGA is going to be named, because we all know how the newest UGA was named. I think Kirby's celebration would probably name the next one.
Or it could just be the next two words out of that boom. So
yeah, absolutely. So Mad Dog 6568, Cameron Fountain Marquise, like Lightfoot both have official visits to UGA. Do you see either possibly being in the class or feel more comfortable with the names like Stewart, Christopher Jackson, who's from Tucker High School, and then Jordan Ross? So when you talk about these guys, would you see them pushing? The only one I would think is, I think Marquise Lightfoot has a real chance because of how Chidera Uzo-Deribe really hit it off with him, and I talked to him, and he said that, hey, they just really wanted him to get down there for an OV. So I think if he does indeed show up on campus, he's a guy you got to watch out for. But other than that, I think Stewart, Jackson, and Ross are the three names you probably need to circle.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys going after about 2 or 3 spots that we've mentioned. So, I would watch the guys that you talked about, Stewart and Jackson, Ross. I think Lightfoot has a legitimate chance. There's some other guys.
Williams DeWander is going to be in town with all these Georgia commits next week, like we said. So
there's a bunch of guys going for very limited spots. So I would be the betting man on the other guys than those.
No doubt. And the last one we have here is from R Hall 55. Do you see the final 3 offensive line being Seton, Poe, and Calhoun? So when it comes to it right now, offensive lineman committed is 6'6", 295-pound offensive lineman from Cartersville, Georgia. Malachi Tolliver is committed. 6'8", 335-pound Marcus Harrison from Athol Springs, New York is committed. Malachi Tolliver told us here on Rumors versus Facts, Trent, that Georgia wants to sign 5 offensive linemen in this class. So I think that's where R Hall's getting his number from. Seton, Poe, Calhoun, are those the 3 guys that you would, lean towards being the guys that they sign, or is there anybody else you would throw into the mix?
I think Poe and Calhoun are 2 guys that I feel more comfortable with at this moment. I think we'll wait and see with the Seton visit. Another guy is Ethan Callaway that I would look at being one of those guys. I think Georgia could even go up and take 6 in this class. It would not surprise me at all. But I feel more comfortable with Poe and Calhoun right now, and it's kind of a waiting game on Seton.
Yeah, I think, as you mentioned, Ethan Callaway from Mooresville, North Carolina, 6'7", 300 pounds. He's a really athletic guy that Stacey Searles has a good relationship with. He'll be coming for an official visit. And then also this upcoming weekend, a guy that we haven't talked about yet, that's how loaded it is right here at the end of the show. We're going to be talking about him, Marquez Easley. He's going to make a commitment in October, he tells me, and he's a guy that Georgia really, really likes. He's from the Chicago area, from up there in Illinois, and he's a guy that another just massive athletic guy that could end up cross training. Georgia really likes these guys that could have the body type, Trent, that could play. Okay, if they're athletic enough that they could start off at tackle. If it doesn't work out, they're big enough and strong enough they can kick them into guard. Marquez Easley is a guy that fits that mold. So I would agree with you with Calhoun and Poe being the 2 guys that are maybe Georgia's got the most momentum with right now. Jordan Seton, who knows? We'll see what happens there. And then right behind those guys, I'd put Ethan Callaway and Marquez Easley. But I think people are going to be ultimately at the end of it, are going to be a little bit people on the vault that talk a lot about offensive line. I think they're going to maybe be a little bit pleasantly surprised with the haul that Georgia brings in this class.
Yeah, for sure. I think, this has been the position that we've talked about, and we've talked about it since, I think, last year was 24 has to be a class that Georgia hits on offensive line, not just numbers, but guys that can come in, learn year one, be ready to go as redshirt freshmen, sophomores. And I think Georgia's going to hit on 2 or 3 guys that fit that bill. I think Georgia is we talk about the Baker, we talk about Calhoun, we talk about all these guys. I think these are guys that can come in, even the Seton, they can come in and play early for Georgia. Not necessarily year one, because you don't see that happen a lot, but I think that the ultimate goal is getting these guys ready for the redshirt freshman year, either as the 6th lineman or even a starting role. And I think those are guys that all fit that mold.
Last one here from a YouTube question. Aiden, we appreciate you and everybody else tuning in. Make sure to hit that thumbs up for us right now. The like button, it's free, helps us out a lot on here. So all you hundreds of people that are in here, go ahead, hit the like button as you're on here right now. But Aiden Cruz asks, how do we feel about DeMarcus Riddick? There's been rumors of Alabama and Auburn trying to flip him. They're certainly trying to flip him. He's visited there a good bit. He is going to be on the official visit this weekend, June 2nd through 4th. So you need to just keep your eyes peeled on that. And then in terms of him specifically, I posted a note on the UGASports Vault this past week about, hey, you know, there's been all these rumors and all this kind of stuff out there, but the recruits, the commits recently have really been showing some love to DeMarcus. And, you know, I think they're starting to feel a little bit more solid about him. Not saying that he's going to for sure remain in the class, but I think there is a little bit of momentum coming this way, especially Trent after he's going to be on campus this weekend.
Yeah, and back a couple weeks ago, I don't know, it was probably a month ago, he visited Alabama, and all we heard afterwards was the flip's coming, need to get a flip story ready, all this stuff, and it never transpired. And that tells me that Georgia has kind of offset whatever Alabama did, and I think Georgia's going to have to continue to do that. I think Georgia's going to have to continue to treat this like, yes, he's committed, but we got to treat him like an uncommitted recruit, and you know, keep scrapping to the end. And I think this is going to be one of those cases, because Alabama and Auburn's not going to go away quietly.
For sure. Now, guys, we've covered a lot of ground here. We had Dylan Raiola and we had Peyton Woodyard in on the show with us for the first 15, 16 minutes. So rewind it, check that out. They're couldn't be two more well-spoken and mature guys that are going to be joining the Georgia program. We'll be hearing a lot about them for years to come. So make sure you check out that. And guys, we will be with you next Monday night. Right now, Andy Stowe got to go and get caught up on Monday Night Raw, especially after Roman Reigns and the bloodline turned on him. So we got to go catch that out, Andy Stowe. And then there's Game 7 on, I hear, through the grapevine of Celtics and Heat. So a lot of stuff to go catch out this Monday night. We appreciate you chose to come on with us and hear about Georgia football recruiting. Subscribe, like, turn on notifications, and we will catch you guys next Monday night. For Trent Smallwood, I am Blayne Gilmer. We'll see you guys next Monday to talk more Georgia football recruiting on the heels of a massive official visit weekend. You guys have a good one, and we'll see you next time.